as we kind of explore the top 3 mistakes that organizations make, but more importantly, what to do about them. And for those that don't know me, I'm Clyde Calhoun. I'm the founder and CEO of Root Idea. Our firm helps companies to catch costly AI mistakes before they hit the P&L or disrupt operations or create reputational damage as well. So we get involved there, and we've had the opportunity to work with dozens of global brands, including companies like Hershey and TransUnion and Lockheed Martin, just to name a few of those. So, and I'm just going to jump in and talk about the top 3 mistakes. And the first one is treating AI as a technology initiative rather than an enterprise initiative. And what I mean by that, we see this over and over and over again. Organizations that, because AI is a technology, they default all the decision making to the IT team. I mean, they're not only controlling which tools are there in the organization, but how employees are using it. And it's really an approach that is detrimental to achieving the types of results most organizations are looking for. Yeah, I actually have been working with an organization recently that they've been super frustrated because for the past 8 months, their IT team has been working on an AI policy and the whole organization has been frozen. Everyone understands that there's value that they can create from these tools, but they're still locked in this cycle of trying to figure out what they even have permission to do. Meanwhile, they're seeing competitors making progress, doing some things, rolling out new tools to their organization and making a difference. When you think about it, technology underpins everything that we do, no matter what function you're working in. If it's a sales function, you've got a CRM tool that you're using, or on the finance side, you've got ERP data or a month-end closing system that you're using. For an S&OP process, you've got supply planning tools as well. But in all of those scenarios, you never see IT driving the strategy for those things. It would be crazy to think that the IT team is defining what the sales team is doing or how they're moving forward or how they're looking at production planning. That's just completely backwards. But with AI, it's been a different ballgame. And the reality though is that AI is breaking out of the IT realm. And we see that in some of the data that's out there. About 66% of office workers are now using tools not approved by company policy. So employees are taking it upon themselves to say that, hey, I know what works for me, and they're going out and putting that into practice, whether or not it's something that's sanctioned or not. Another really interesting stat, 72% of employees and 77% of senior leaders believe that they understand how to create value with AI better than their IT teams. And that's not surprising. It feels natural. The people that are closest to the work, that are closest to the challenges and opportunities that are there, naturally they might have that perspective on where they can apply AI to create the most value for the organization. So that's the sentiment that's out there and why we're seeing a shift, because the organizations that are most successful with AI are the ones that are shifting decision-making control into the business, into other functional areas besides IT. And so just one thing that I would say, if you're just getting started with this, number one in action that you can take is establishing an executive level AI steering team that has representation from all of those key functions and have that group empowered to actually make decisions about the strategy of the organization when it comes to AI, about what tools you're deploying, how you're creating value with it, what use cases you're truly pursuing so that it's not just an IT thing. Those are the organizations that are most successful, and that's a great place for you to start. Mistake number 2, governing AI tools instead of AI influenced decisions. Now, here's the thing. The first place that most organizations start with in terms of governance, they'll roll out a high-level policy on AI use across the organization. They'll pick which tools they want to use, how employees can access it. They'll put the controls in place to protect proprietary company information, and then they consider themselves done. But that's not it. I mean, that doesn't get to how people are actually using these tools and how they're creating value, but also how they're creating risk inside the organization by the way that they're using these tools. And it's really interesting as well because despite all the work that's taken place, there's still a lack of confidence in the governance around AI for most companies generally. So 78% of executives lack the confidence or surety that they could pass an independent AI governance audit given 90 days to prepare for it. That's the other qualifier around that. They're still not sure that they could effectively pass an independent audit when it comes to AI. And at the same time, only 1 in 5 companies have actually tested an AI incident response plan. So just presume that something went wrong, either misinformation going out to a customer or errors on your 10K or annual disclosure for financial reporting, or a pricing snafu, or a supply chain error that results in a stock out. Most organizations have not taken the steps to understand what do we do in that space? How do we, how do we go from there? What is in place to ensure that we're ready? Because the reality is that most organizations have been so focused on AI tools governance, controlling what people are using and protecting information, they haven't put the emphasis on decision governance, managing those tools that AI is shaping the information, recommendations, decisions, and reporting information that are generated with AI assisting in that process. Sometimes intentionally in terms of tools that are formally deployed, but oftentimes unintentionally as those employees are using AI in the background to deliver on their work. And so the key question that I always go back to is this one. If there was an AI related mistake that resulted in a material loss tomorrow, could you demonstrate that appropriate oversight was in place? I mean, that's the question that boards want to know, that your audit committee, wants to know that you have a plan, you've got, controls in place around your business, not just in terms of tools access, but how people are using it so that you can mitigate the risks that are there. And that's not to say that something may not happen, but for sure, if you've not taken that step to put the basics in place, you are running, you're playing a roulette effectively. And here's the kicker that puts the point on that. There was a recent study by Ernst and Young that about 64% of organizations that make over $1 billion annually, that they've already had at least one negative AI incident that cost them more than $1 million. And the average cost of an AI incident was $4.4 million. So the consequences are huge around this. And so I just think it's important that, yeah, yes, we want to create values from the tools, but we have to do so safely. So with that said, one of the actions that you can take in the near term is just start by identifying 5 of the most important decisions in your organization that are potentially influenced by AI and working through what the validation of output looks like, what your process playbook looks like for escalating issues or managing AI related mistakes, coming clear on your documentation requirements. What is it that you need to capture in terms of inputs and assumptions? What do you need to flag or label as AI assisted output? And that's particularly relevant for things like your financial disclosure process. That's a good first step because, again, it'll help expose where some of those vulnerabilities may be and where you need to work. And so mistake number 3, underestimating the human side of AI transformation. And this is kind of one of those things too, because the technology has been deployed so rapidly these days. Almost everyone has put in place some enterprise level AI solution, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or Claude or something else, Gemini, as well. But the common way that organizations are doing this is that they're rolling out the tools, maybe giving a little bit of training, and they're asking employees to go figure everything else out. And the reality is that that's not working because it's clear that employees have a lot on their plate. And while they recognize the importance of AI, again, 65% of employees fear that they'll fall behind if they don't adapt to AI quickly. They're also feeling stuck because they believe that it feels safer to focus on what they're doing currently than to try to redesign the way that they're working with AI. That's the tension that's there. And it doesn't help that structurally, organizations have not put in place the incentives to actually move them forward in the right direction. Only 13% of employees feel that they're actually rewarded for reinventing the way that they work with AI, particularly when short-term results are still unfulfilled across the organization. That's the tension. And so naturally, it's no surprise that people aren't necessarily resisting AI. They're just responding to leadership and the priorities that people have. And when there is a tension between this idea to innovate and figure out ways to use AI versus hitting the numbers, naturally people are going to default to, well, hey, we're going to hit these numbers and somebody else can deal with that whole AI situation. And now here's the thing that I would just tack on to that. I think, again, AI is a new technology and it's exciting. I'm a firm believer that it has the power to transform the way that organizations are working and create a lot of advantage, a lot of productivity that companies can realize. But at the same time, the differentiator for those companies that are doing really well with AI from everybody else is not so much the technology. Everybody has access to the same technology, effectively. The difference is the things that have traditionally moved businesses forward. Is, being able to navigate change across the organization. It's empowering people and, building accountability and execution and process focus across the organization. Those are the things that I would essentially wrap up as the culture that you built inside the organization as being the key to success with AI. And so, the thing about it is, you really have to think to yourself, what is it that we're doing from a leadership perspective? What's the best way to engage people and how do we move forward? Because effectively, AI is magnifying the capabilities of the organizations. Those organizations that had great fundamental capabilities already, they're taking AI, they're running with it, they're seeing value. That have struggled on those traditional things, particularly when it comes to people and engaging people, those are the ones that are lagging right now. So, action that you can take. I would start by asking every functional leader, what's one process in your area that would make the biggest impact if redesigned today with AI in mind? And again, we're not talking about some tweaks or automating what you're already doing, but totally redesign. And this question does two things. Number one, you're going to get a lot of input from across the organization about where they see the value in AI. But the important piece about that is you're engaging you're engaging people into the process. So you're inviting them to join you as you figure out where you're going with AI. So that's thing number one. But then the second part about this question, it allows you to start prioritizing where you want to put your focus with AI. The reality is that as much as you'd like to do 100 different things across the organization, the companies that are most successful are the ones that pick one or two, at most three, and they put the resources behind it and go from there. Because the reality is that until you dedicate clear resources for project management, there should be a dedicated project team for your AI initiatives, dedicated champions to manage change across the organization, dedicated expertise to support those folks. Until you do that, it's hard to make true progress on this AI front. So when you prioritize, it will allow you to invest the people resources where you need it to complement your technology investment. So again, those are three things that I wanted to talk about. And this is just kind of the wrap of all of that. But I would just go back to that piece of sustainable advantages created by doing all those things that have always been important. Being clear about the strategy for where you're headed, really owning that strategy across the enterprise, not just in IT. Really looking at not just the rewards of AI, but managing the downside as well, but most importantly, putting people and processes in place to be successful. Just saying, number one, thank you for joining today's session. Always find it interesting in terms of what people are focused on or how they're thinking about new things. And so it's great to have you join the session. Second thing I would say is that if there's someone in your organization that didn't get a chance to join today and you think they would really value having this type of conversation, we can do an encore conversation inside your organization that can be really open so that you have an opportunity to kind of talk things out and deal with some of the challenges that your organization specifically is going through. If you're launching an AI initiative or you've got some things that are kind of maybe a little sideways inside your organization and you just want some additional perspective on that, happy to talk through that as well. And then if you'd like to learn more about Root Idea and our capabilities and how we support our clients, both in terms of strategy or doing controls assessment, putting governance in place, tools governance as well as decision governance, or just thinking about the change management piece of that and training and support for auditors and all the things, happy to have a conversation to share more about what we do. And then lastly, I would encourage you to mark your calendar for July 29th at 1 p.m., where we're going to be talking about the AI adoption gap and that misalignment between leaders and employees and how that shows up and impacts value creation and business risk. I think that's going to be really fascinating from a couple different dimensions there. We've touched on a little bit of that today, but I think we'll have an opportunity to go deep on that conversation in July. So with that, again, thank you very much, and I wish you all a great day.